Welcome to a deep dive, everyone. We're diving into the art of communication through a fascinating lens today, the lens of 15th century Venetian painter Vittore Carpaccio. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A Renaissance painter. What's that got to do with how we communicate today? But trust me on this one. With Michel Serres as our guide, his analysis of Carpaccio's work is just brilliant. You're in for a real treat. We're going to uncover how Carpaccio uses these visual metaphors, these incredible images, to explore the very essence of connection, dialogue, the spaces even that we create between ourselves and others. It's all there in the paintings. Okay, so Serres, he starts with this painting called St. Jerome in his study. Now forget the image of, a saint surrounded by dusty old books. Instead, picture this. A man all alone in a fortress, cut off from this vibrant city all around him. That's the image Carpaccio paints. And Serres, he suggests it's a powerful metaphor, right, for the walls we build when we try to communicate. Think about it. Have you ever felt isolated, even when you're in a crowded room? Like you just can't bridge that gap between yourself and the people around you. That feeling, Carpaccio captures it perfectly. With the fortress, the symbol of isolation, and the struggles of really connecting with someone. But here's the thing, there's hope too, right there, in the painting. There's this delicate bridge, see? It arches gracefully over the water, connecting that secluded fortress to the bustling city. This, Serres argues, is the symbol of dialogue. It's the bridge, you see. The bridge that has the power to break down barriers, create a real connection. Carpaccio is reminding us that communication, it can break down even the toughest walls, if we're willing to build those bridges.
It's really striking. The way Carpaccio takes something as concrete as architecture and uses it to represent something as abstract as communication, right? The fortress, the bridge. They're not just part of the landscape. They embody this whole dynamic of connection and isolation. It's like he's giving us a visual vocabulary to understand the spaces we create in our relationships with each other.
And it's not just the fortress and the bridge either, is it? There's this numerical pattern as a whole other layer to this visual language he's created.
Right. It's the motif of four.
Yeah.
You see four figures gathered around that table, and look closely. There are two sets of two bridges connecting the different spaces in the painting. Serres connects this to the very structure of dialogue itself.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. You have two speakers, naturally.
Yeah.
But then there's a third element, something excluded, to allow that dialogue to even happen in the first place.
I see.
And then finally, a fourth element emerges, the product of that conversation, the meaning that's created.
So it's kind of like a formula.
In a way, yes. Carpaccio's painting, it becomes a visual equation for how dialogue works, how meaning comes about. From this interplay of presence and absence, connection and separation.
It's incredible, isn't it, how much depth, how much meaning Carpaccio packs into a single scene. But it gets even more intriguing when we start to consider how Serres interprets the spaces within this painting. He introduces this idea of the eroticism of space. And no, we're not talking about anything, explicit here. So when he says eroticism, what does he actually mean by that?
It's a good question. It's easy to go down the wrong track.
Yeah.
But Serres is getting at something, he's using eroticism to describe a kind of energy, you see, this tension that drives us to connect.
Okay.
It's about the allure of the unknown, right? That pull we feel towards something outside ourselves. And he sees this woven into, it's like part of the fabric of Carpaccio's painting.
Okay, so I'm trying to picture this. How does that play out visually?
Okay, look at the Madonna figure.
Okay.
She's this classic representation, isn't she? Purity and grace. But Carpaccio, he imbues her with this certain, sensuality, you could say, an allure that goes beyond the traditional religious representation.
So it's more than just she's a beautiful woman.
Right, exactly. Right. It's subtle, but it's definitely there.
Okay, I think I see what you mean. So there's this, hidden energy then, this kind of charge, even in these serene settings.
That's it, yes. And get this, it's not just the Madonna either.
Really?
Look at the way Carpaccio portrays the city itself.
Okay.
It's subtle, but he's subtly depicting it as a feminine form, too.
Oh, wow. I never noticed that.
Right. It's like this echo of the Madonna, linking this idea of eroticism back to the act of communication itself.
I see.
It's as if he's saying connection, that act of bridging the gap between us. It has this inherent energy, this magnetic pull.
That's fascinating. It's like he's saying we're drawn to communicate, right? It's not just something we do out of necessity.
Exactly. It's more primal than that.
Wow. Okay, so we've got these fascinating dynamics of connection and isolation. This almost hidden language of eroticism in these paintings. But let's shift gears for a second. Explore another side of Carpaccio's take on communication. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right, this time let's look at his painting, St. George and the Dragon. At first glance, you might think, okay, classic hero versus villain, good versus evil, we've seen this story before. But like with everything else in Carpaccio, right, there's more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Serres, he challenges that. That simple good versus evil reading.
Does he?
Oh yeah, he says St. George and the Dragon. They aren't actually polar opposites, but two sides of the same coin.
Now, hold on a minute.
Both of them representing forces that are essential, he says, not just to the world, but to communication itself.
Wait, so the dragon isn't all bad? You've got me intrigued.
Think of it like this, okay? The dragon, he embodies chaos, the untamed, the unknown.
Okay.
But those forces, you see, they're necessary for creation, for change, even for defining what meaning is.
So you're saying there's no good without bad?
In a way, yes. Even in conversation, think about it, you need a little bit of friction, a challenge, right? To spark new ideas.
So it's like without the dragon, without that opposing force, things would just stagnate. We need that push and pull to really make things happen.
Exactly. And visually, Carpaccio emphasizes this through his use of color.
How so?
Well, the painting's dominated by red and black, right?
Right.
This stark contrast, it's what Serres calls it a dialectic of negations.
The dialectic of negations, okay.
It's through this clash of opposites,
Yeah.
light and shadow playing off each other. That's how meaning comes about.
That's incredible. It's like the painting itself becomes a battleground then. Not just for St. George and the Dragon, but for ideas, for meaning itself.
And there's one more detail Serres points out. He connects this painting to the story of Adam and Eve.
Okay.
Suggesting that the pursuit of knowledge, which is what St. George slaying the dragon represents, it comes with a cost.
What do you mean?
Well, look at the fragmented bodies beneath the dragon in St. George, almost hidden in the shadows.
Right, yeah, I see them.
They're a reminder that knowledge can be, well, a double-edged sword. That the pursuit of understanding, it can be messy, even painful at times.
You know, it makes you think that sometimes we have to go through something difficult to really learn and grow. It's like we need to face those dragons, those challenges to really figure things out.
I think that's a great way to put it, yes.
It's like a reminder that real understanding, it demands something from us. It requires us to confront things, the difficult, the challenging, even the things that scare us a little. But it's through facing those things that we discover who we really are and what we believe in. You know, as I'm looking at more and more of Carpaccio's work, I'm noticing this theme over and over again. It's like he's always drawing us in to the center of the action, the main figures, the focal point of it all.
But then there's always something obscured, something hidden.
Yeah.
It makes you question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What you're really seeing, what's truly at the heart of it all. Yeah, you're right. It's like he's playing with us a little bit, drawing us into the mystery of it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Serres calls this the unknowable center. This idea that there's always more than meets the eye in Carpaccio's work.
I like that, the unknowable center.
And it's not just about hidden faces, right? It's about the very nature of knowledge itself. What we can know, what remains hidden.
It's like he's saying, don't think you figured it all out.
Precisely. And this ties into the limits of language, too, you see. We use words to understand each other, to make sense of the world. But language, as powerful as it is, can also limit us.
Right, like sometimes words just aren't enough.
Exactly. Sometimes we need to go beyond language, to images, to symbols, to dreams even.
And Carpaccio gives us that, doesn't he? In his paintings.
Absolutely. He gives us these visual poems, these intricate worlds packed with symbolism that invite us to decode them, to uncover their hidden meanings.
Like those two paintings we talked about, Two Venetian Ladies and The Dream of St. Ursula.
Exactly. Those paintings are perfect examples of how Carpaccio uses symbolism to tell stories, especially about women's lives.
And he does it so masterfully. Every detail, every object, every glance, it all means something.
Right. He's created this whole visual vocabulary, you see, using everyday objects as symbols. Flowers, animals, clothing, the way they're arranged.
It's like he's giving us a secret language.
Yes. And it's up to us to decipher it.
And in Two Venetian Ladies, we see that contrast so vividly.
Right. One woman surrounded by symbols of life, of connection, of freedom almost.
And the other, confined, restricted, her world seems so much smaller.
It's a powerful statement about the different realities women faced, even back then. And in The Dream of St. Ursula, we're transported into this realm of dreams, of the subconscious.
It's amazing how Carpaccio does that, how he draws you into these dreamlike scenes.
It's like he's reminding us that communication isn't just about words. It's about images, feelings, the things we can't always express directly.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, this deep dive has really opened my eyes, not just to Carpaccio's work, but to the whole idea of communication itself.
I'm glad to hear that. It's amazing how art can do that, isn't it? Make us see things in a new light.
It really is, and I think Carpaccio's work with Serres' insights to guide us, it shows us that communication is so much more than just words. It's about spaces and symbols and hidden meanings. It's about the bridges we build, the walls we put up, the connections we make, and the ones we miss. It's about this constant dance between what's said and what's left unsaid. And it's something, I think, that we're all still trying to figure out, even after all these centuries. So, as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with this thought. Take a moment to really look at the world around you. The images, the symbols, the stories that we encounter every day. What are they trying to tell us? What hidden meanings are waiting to be uncovered? And how can we become more aware of the ways we communicate, both consciously and unconsciously? Keep those questions in mind, and until next time,